All right. Good evening. Jeanette and David are here tonight. Thank you for joining LiveFULLy tonight. What I wanted to talk about tonight is repetition. And it's gonna take us into a little bridge into a conversation about time. So psychological time versus clock time. And that is going to kind of move us into a discussion about the past and how the past affects us, as well as the future, and how both the past and the future, we're going to go a little deep tonight, are an illusion, right? So the past is basically events that have occurred that we've attached emotions to, that create imprints within us. And so let's take the emotion worry, for instance. When we worry, sorry, wrong one. Let's do like regret. If we find ourselves, say, in your day to day, like you're going through life and you're like, I'm dwelling on this, something that happened, or I really regret. And it kind of like sinks your whole day. It's because you're living in the past. And so that past, that feeling of regret has kind of attached itself to a situation that is similar to one that you're going through right now. And so that kind of takes over. And so that's why really, when I say that like the past and the future are both an illusion, when I talk about the past, like we've created these emotions, subconsciously. And so we're not sitting around figuring out how we're going to create our lives, but we have gone through certain situations that have caused us to have emotions. And a lot of them are negative. And so when we dwell in that past and are constantly like trying to pull ourselves out of it, there really only is the present. And so earlier, I talked about worry. So worry is actually going into the future. And I'm going to struggle with both of them. I think everybody does, unless you're, Buddha or like super conscious, which is, we all, strive to be as conscious as we can be. But, the reality is that we spend too much time in, negative thoughts about the past, like that actually is not happening to you right now. This is not happening to me right now, right? So I had a day, actually it was about 2.5 or 3 days, that was spent in this kind of wallowing, and compulsive eating can, easily come into play. Compulsive drinking, just, addictive behavior that we talk about on here all the time can manifest in a lot of different ways. But what happened was I was projecting into the future, and I was worrying about how the future was not going to play out in a relationship that I had in my mind, the way that I had imagined that it would. So I had already placed this expectation, this idea of what was going to happen, and like that was not happening, right? So it took me into kind of a tailspin on like, well, everything was negative. It impacted everything. I couldn't focus. I didn't get a lot of work done because I can't get on a call right now because I was upset. I was, crying at some points throughout the several days. I was just thinking. And I watched a video last night about Descartes. And everybody's heard of the philosopher, French philosopher of, way back in the day, Descartes, that had the thinker, the statue of the guy thinking. And he actually kind of had it reversed, or kind of says the opposite of what you might hear from like more enlightened beings. But Descartes was saying like, I think, therefore I am. And we say the opposite, right? Like thinking is what your mind is what actually causes the negativity, the I am, quote unquote, that we want to be, that is God, that God-like. That's not about thinking. That's about, spirituality. It's about enlightenment, like raising our vibration, becoming our truest, highest self without all of these negative emotions and situations and experiences that we've decided that that's who I am. And so, when it comes to, we talk a lot about, the last time we met, it was really all about, nutrition and isogenics and having, going through surgery. But this mindset piece of understanding of how to stay in the present moment is just really gigantic. It's making a huge impact in my life, and I'm seeing it so much more clearly. I've heard it before, but not seen it as clearly and as deeply as I have been lately. So I want to share my screen really quick and just open up for discussion a couple of things. So can you guys see my screen? Okay. Let me see if you're still there. Yeah. Okay. So putting the past into perspective. So up in the top right, you see that the book, it's called The Book of Awakening. And you guys, I don't even know where I picked up this book. It was probably in some used bookstore, but it's by a guy named Mark Nepo and New York Times bestseller. It is a beautiful book. It's called Having the Life You Want. The subtitle is Having the Life You Want by Being Present in to the life that you have. So he uses life experiences just as kind of like life lessons, that it's really all about living, your best, truest, most wonderful, beautiful life. And the way that, it truly sounds like poetry. Like some of these, and it's a daily thing. So you can see here, I've got like from, September 23rd and then back to the 16th. These were two that I thought were really kind of related. So I want to start on the left, from the one on September 23rd about, repetition is not failure. Ask the waves, ask the leaves, ask the wind. And then, hopefully it's big enough that you guys can read it. I'm not going to read all the way through it, but we have to go through things multiple times, a lot of times, right? Like in our lives. At least, maybe I'm the only one, but sometimes it takes me more than once to get it, more than twice, more than 3 times. That it's like, I've heard this before. And I've had a lot of conversations too lately with people about starting isogenics that have kind of been doing that, like, well, kind of that living in the past, like, well, I've done this before, or I've tried so many things before. And I say, do you have any concerns? Do you have any questions before you get started? And it's like, yeah, I guess my only concern is whether or not I can do it. And again, that is a past, that's living in the past, because right now, in the present is right now. If you are ready to make a change, whether it's with your eating, whether it's, if it's health related, whether it's with your job, whether it's with a romantic relationship, your marriage, right now is right now. And letting go of those past, like just something as simple as, my only concern is whether or not I can do it. Why would you think that you can't do it? Because all the times before, right? Automatically, boom, like we're right back there in the past. But the thing is, it's okay. Like, that's life. Like, that is human nature. It's like Mark Nepo says, ask the waves. And down at the bottom, like at the end of each of these little, daily messages, he gives a couple of like tidbits, like of, okay, practice this now, like sit quietly or meditate on this, and gives you a couple of things to do. So on 23rd, there, you had to flip the page to see there was another one, but these two, try not to resist this recurring piece of life, is, or what this recurring piece of life is trying to teach you. Like, don't resent, because like when you automatically are putting yourself back into the past, you're resisting, like there could be something happening right now. Like that's, yeah, you've been through it before, but it's okay. Like you needed to go through it another time to get it. And you might need to go through it 2 months from now. The second bullet here, sit quietly, and as you breathe, see yourself as a shore and this recurring piece of life as a wave whose job is to make you smooth. And I just love that part where it's like, you think about like what the waves do, right? They keep on coming. They keep on coming. They keep on coming. But what they're doing is they're not causing a problem. Like they're smoothing you out. And so, the reason why I just wanted to talk about this repetition is not failure is that sometimes we get caught up in kind of beating ourselves up. Like, I've been through this before. I should have learned this lesson by now. And so again, now we're back to negative thought patterns that can kind of throw us off track. But if we allow these ourselves, right, to go through these situations again, like, yes, it's time is repeating itself. And I understand why, because I've created this emotion. I've attached it to an experience. I'm having another experience that's like that one that I had before. And so now, it's okay. Like I'm still learning it, obviously. So it's okay. The second passage on the right, from the 16th is like, says where we've been. So let me move you guys over. I can't, whoops. All right, I'm not able to see my cursor is the problem. Here we go. All right. So our ability to find something to love and to love again for the first time depends greatly on how we get our reader glasses. On how we resolve and integrate where we've been before. A great model for us exists in the nautilus. So I have a picture there of a nautilus. I never knew what a nautilus was. But the nautilus is a deep sea form of life that inches like a soft man in a hard shell, finding his prayers along the bottom. Over time, it builds a spiral shell, but always lives in the newest chamber. And so I just wanted to, kind of stop there. So when I read that, I was like, oh my gosh, here we just came off of, this one was first, but then, that repetition took me back to, what I had read on the 16th and thinking about how this nautilus, you can actually see, it's like the waves, like you can actually see where all these different chambers that it's created over time, right? And it's still attached. They're still there. It's still part of the nautilus. It's not like it has shed it and like moved into a brand new thing, but it always lives in the newest chamber. And so later, it's underlined. It says, breaking our past down till it's fluid enough to lose most of its weight. Can we internalize where we've been enough to know that we are no longer living there? When we can, life will seem lighter. So, man, I read that sentence so many times. Like, to know that all of these habits, that we've created, these experiences that we've had that have created negative emotions that bring us down, that kind of wreck our day. Can we internalize where we've been enough, like really sink into it? And the next slide, I'm going to talk a little bit about this book, The Power of Now. But can we really sink into where we've been? Like, look at the past, stare at it, because it hurts sometimes. I mean, sometimes it's like we avoid it. It's like, man, I don't want anything to do with thinking about that relationship, or I've divorced myself so far from that thought or that idea because it hurts, right? Like it's painful, but the problem is if we don't sink into that feeling, that emotion, you know, what it caused, like we're not able to move into the present. And so we're not able to kind of be an observer and just notice it and say, ooh, ow, like that's kind of how that felt before, right? Or I feel like I'm going through the same situation again, but to allow it, you know, to be accepting of it and be like, okay, well, that's interesting. I feel worried right now, you know, about the future. I know that hasn't even, like, there's no problem right now in my life, like literally sitting here in my office in my house. Like I could sit here and worry about the future or sit here and have regret, but like looking into that past and really, it's almost like calling it out for what it is. Like it's just some stuff that happened. But like, can we internalize it enough to know that we're no longer living there? It's not like it's like the Nautilus, right? Like it's got these past chambers, like it's been there. It's like been there, done that, but I'm not living there right now. I'm living like in the right now. So before I go to the next, there's only one more slide and it's just a passage out of this book, The Power of Now. But let me just stop here and let me open it up. Like, are you guys, does anything resonate with you here about just kind of, you know, the past, how we see the past, you know, repetition, going through again and again? Like, what stands out to you?
Well, Chris, I've taken several notes, and one thing that you said was in talking with people who live in the past, attract people who live in the now, right? I deserve to attract those kinds of people, right? Because I know those people are really, I attract the past without doing anything. And it takes work to attract people of now, right? That see this situation as I mean, I need to do something now. I wasn't that person originally. It took me time. And then the other thing is, you know, I look for heart rocks. And so ask the waves, don't resist the lesson. That is key, right? Because we've all been in the ocean, we've all been hit by a wave. You know, the best thing to do is to dive as deep as you can and go under it. But if you are in it, relax, because if you don't, you're going to get pummeled and you might even get thrashed on the sand. And then if you do, you could get injured too. So don't resist. Multiple passes I wrote down, right? That's something key for me. Having a lot of weight to lose. I'm starting over all the time.
All the time.
Okay. So I don't beat myself up, right? What I do is I've realized, what did I do in the past? What got me to where I got to? And how can I use that? And so today on Lenny's call, Dave said that really struck out with me. The old identity gives you an opportunity to build the new identity. So be grateful for it. It's a process and a journey. And that really struck a chord. It goes hand in hand with what we're talking about, because that old identity, it's not me, but it's a lesson and it's an opportunity for me to be grateful in versus regretful, right? Because I can choose to be regretful and that vibration is low. I can choose gratitude and that's a high vibration that creates, right? Being regretful destroys. And the other piece is it's a process and it's a journey and it's my journey. It's not your journey, Chris. It's not anybody else's journey but mine. And that's what I have kind of so far from what you've talked about. The Nautilus thing is cool. I'm going to check that out. I'm going to Google it a little bit and start reading up because, you know, maybe that's the deal, right? I'm living in the old pad, right? Instead of, hey, I have a new pad every day, so accept it, be in it, right? The now is the new pad, right? The past is the old pad. So kind of cool.
I love it. I love your the way that you looked at the waves and like diving into it. I just remember doing that as a kid. You know, it's like, oh, here comes a big one, and the best thing is to go like right down into the bottom of it. You know, so it doesn't take you. But yeah, that's amazing. Thank you for that. Alginette, do you have any thoughts so far?
Let me unmute myself
Yeah.
because, sorry, Marcus started barking there. I don't know if that interrupted you, so I apologize if so. But yeah, you know, one of the things that, you know, the path, you know, a lot of people, I'm understanding, you know, that a lot of us feel so comfortable, even though we don't want to live in the past, we've been comfortable with that, you know, and it's moving in the future and it makes us uncomfortable. So it's like moving out of that. It's like that growth process, you know, it's like that next step in growing. We definitely don't want to live in the past. You know, we're trying to learn from the things from the past and move our lives forward. But yet it's so uncomfortable at the same time because it's so scary for a lot of us, you know, like, you know, we've kind of like lived in that shell, like, and it's like growing and trying to coming out of that shell, and you're growing and you're just like pushing forward, and sometimes the world is pushing back at you, and it's kind of like you want to, like, okay, the past was comfortable, like even though it was uncomfortable, but you realize too in that growth process, when you put the past where it is and you learn that, you know, that was part of my life, and it's okay, you know, like it doesn't define the person I am today, because that was the past, and I live in the now and I'm working towards the future. So it's that growth process and being in that uncomfortable place and being like, okay, this is okay, you know, I'm completely safe, everything's good, life is good, and even though I'm uncomfortable, you know, it's tomorrow's a good day also. I'm looking forward to that growth. So it's, you know, that I love that whole that you're putting together with that, you know, it's like learning from the past but yet, you know, growing and pushing yourself into the future. So that's, I really really like that part.
Awesome. Yeah, and it's, you know, like David said, I mean, it's an over and over again thing. Like where I think, you know, sometimes we seem to get frustrated, like that it takes us, you know, more than once. But it's like, you know, I started a cleanse yesterday and I broke it last night, you know, when I went to bed. And I could have just said, screw it all, you know, but I'm like, no, I'm gonna cleanse again today, you know. So like we're gonna give it another go. And that was a new, I mean, that's a pretty fairly new thing for me to do. Like the old, you know, like me before I started into any personal development would have been like, screw it all, right? Like I can't do it anyway. I mean, that's why I'm 100 pounds overweight, because I can't do it, because I can't, you know, like I'm living in that past. And so to be present and aware, I think it's one thing to, hey, Amy, you know, it's one thing to say it out loud and be like, yeah, you know, we can't live in the past, we got to live in the present. But like that stuff happens. Like it still happens. It happens to me. It happens every single day. That it's that like catch myself, bring myself back. Wait a second. Is this happening right now? Right? Or is this something that I thought I used to think? Or is this something that I'm worried about happening in the future? that I have no control right now, like over the future. Like it's a complete illusion. So I'm like scared, like where does fear come from? Fear comes from thinking that, there's something is going to happen, like nothing is happening to me right now. So with that, I just want to, talk about yeah, but and what if. So for the past, it's the yeah, but. And so when we're having conversations with people, I know for me, when it comes to isogenics and health, the yeah, but, to really recognize that as a living in the past thought process, right? Like, yeah, I hear you, but, right? And you're like, but I can't, but I've failed before, but it hasn't worked, but I'm not going to be able to stick to it. All of that is past time body. Okay. Which again, like maybe that was the 100 times that you did it before. Like that's the Nautilus. Those were the past chambers that you went through. Those were the waves that kept coming up. They're still smoothing you out, but that is not what's happening right now. We had a call several weeks ago about having the power of choice. That is like the greatest thing we have in the whole wide world, is to have the power to choose. That we don't have to go through, what we did before. Like right now can be the one time that it's actually different. Maybe it is, maybe not. And that's okay too. If we have to go through 5 more times or 10 more times until we get it. So, and the what if is the projecting into the future, right? So again, we're having the conversations with people. It's the best nutrition. We need to get this stuff in your body. And like, here's, before and after pictures. But what if I don't lose it? But what if I'm not, going to be able to stay? What if is future? Let's not talk about what if. Let's cross that what if when we come to it. So I had, 10, 15 minute conversation with someone the other day that just was taking me down the what if path with question after question after question. And I said, you know what? Like, I can't answer the what if because it hasn't happened. Like, we'll deal with it. If that happens, in the moment, then you're going to call me and we're going to talk about it and we're going to work through a solution because it's happening right now at that moment. But right now, the what if, it's like, but what if not? Right? So that projecting, what if, like that worry, the fear is all future. So you guys, have you read this book, The Power of Now? Eckhart Tolle? Oh my God. This book ranks right up there for me with books like Working with the Law. Al Jeanette, you were watching The Secret. I mean, like foundational principles. This guy, and if you look up Eckhart Tolle, like he is brilliant. So I am sinking. I'm not even the entire way through this book. I am sinking into it so deeply. And what he does is after a thought that he feels like is really something you need to go back and digest, he puts this little, I don't know if you can see it. There's like a little symbol. It's like a little paragraph symbol thing, but that is telling you to like stop and pause, like literally put the book down. Don't read it is so important. It is so critical that you understand like this point about yourself, that he's like, stop, pause. Like, so if you're looking for a book to like zip through, like this is not the one. And I see why he does it. When I started reading, I'm like, well, great, this is going to take me forever to get through this. But he goes really, really deep into time and like how important it is to live life in the now. So like this, underlying passage, like in the normal mind identified, and again, our mind is like a negative thing here, right? It's the thinker, it's the creating the thoughts instead of being present to what life and present and grateful and like being in wonder of the right now. So the normal mind identified or unenlightened state of consciousness, the power and infinite creative potential that lie concealed in the now are completely obscured by psychological time. It's like we can't even see what's happening right now because we're so caught up in what happened before, or we're so caught up and worried about what's going to happen in the future. We're missing it. The beauty of like what's happening right now. Are completely obscured by psychological time. Your life then loses its vibrancy, its freshness, its sense of wonder. The old patterns of thought, emotion, behavior, reaction, desire are acted out in endless repeat performances, a script in your mind that gives you an identity of sorts, but distorts or covers up the reality of the now. The mind then creates an obsession with the future because that doesn't feel good, right? The past, like this repeat of the like that again. So we don't want to think that. So instead of being in the now, we jump to the future and create an obsession that's an escape with how we feel about like what happened in the past. Like we're completely ignoring what's happening right now. And it's just like, oh my goodness, how often do we do that? I mean, I got into a habit of stopping by to get these cinnamon bites from, I think it's Little Caesars. I don't even know the name of the pizza place. I just know that they have them. And to the point that I pass it so often that I don't even think about like whether or not I want them. It's an automatic, imprinted like emotion that I have about those things when I go past. If I know I'm going past that day, I will project later into the day, into my drive about whether or not I'm going to stop. Like anything that's happening for me right now is completely out the window because of the cinnamon bites. And then you guys, I mean, it's like, it's funny, but it's not funny. You know, it's real. It's like, this is stuff that if we don't control staying in the present and like being grateful for what's happening, like the wonder, the essence of what's happening like right now. Do I want this right now? Is this happening? Is this problem? Is it really a problem? Is this happening to me right now? And if something, I know he says in this book, if something is happening to you right now, then you acknowledge it and you deal with it, right? Like you either change the situation or, you know, change the way you think about it or walk away. I mean, like you make a decision and you move on. You don't wallow in it because then you'd be in the past again already. But 99% of the time, our thoughts are engaged in this, you know, it includes food, it includes thoughts about eating, it includes thoughts about not being successful, about not deserving, you know, good nutrition in our bodies. It includes all of these emotions, you know, that also apply to all these other areas in our life. So he says, he wrote this, you know, break the old pattern of present moment denial. Because that's what's happening. I'm in present moment denial if I am not thinking about what's happening for me right now. And present moment resistance. Make it your practice to withdraw attention from the past and future whenever they're not needed. So it's one thing, you know, you go back to Mark Nepo on the first slide, like where he's talking about like really like feeling into it, like feel into the past, like, but know that you're not living there anymore. Like be comfortable with it. Like, you know, Dave, like you said, that Dave MacArthur said this morning, like, be grateful that that was one of the waves that keeps on coming back to the shore and smoothing you out again, you know, that the wave came again to smooth you out a little bit more and a little bit more. It's like, there's goodness in identifying, like kind of, you know, looking at it and being the observer and saying, okay, yeah, that happened. And I get that kind of, that rocked me, that kind of hurt my heart, you know, or it rocked me emotionally. there's a difference between that and living in it. Of my, like example that I started out the call of my, 2 to 3 day, like, this is never going to turn out the way it's never going to work. It's not happening. It's been this long and it's still not happening. I was like literally for 3 days living in the future and then, in the past, both. I mean, to be honest. So, I encourage everybody to, both in your own lives as well as people, if, we're all coaching people on Isogenics, to really challenge people that where are you right now? Like I understand like that Nautilus, all of those chambers that you've built in the past. Like I understand it because I did it too. But one of these times, like you've got to get out of those chambers and live in the one that's right now and be grateful and allow all of the magic and the wonder and the, like, be open and awake to what's happening right now. And when you catch yourself feeling icky, like sit in it, like look, be the observer, look at it, watch it. And why do I feel crappy right now? Like, why do I feel kind of like unworthy, or like I knew that was going to happen, or why am I feeling so negative? And so look at it, watch it, feel into it. But is that happening to me right now? Or, am I sinking backwards, or am I projecting forward? Which either one, both pointless. Just absolutely pointless to live in either one. So, and it's more than an ocean. It's hard. I hate to say it's hard. Casey did a whole talk about if you say something's hard, it's going to continue to be hard. So it's not that hard. But I'll admit it happens often that, we sit around and like when we, you can call it daydreaming. Well, it's daydreaming if it's positive. But if you're sitting around like, oh man, worry, fear, like that is where you've got to stop and say, wait a second, I'm not in the present. I'm not in the now. Any thoughts on Eckhart Tolle? Muted. Is he muted? Oh, got him.
Oh, there we go. Sorry about that.
Okay.
There we go. Sorry about that. So yeah, so you know how you were saying about books and how they kind of tell you to stop and pause. So I've been going through You Were Born Rich by Bob Proctor.
Okay.
And then he talks about Think and Grow Rich. And so whenever I take notes, whenever they talk about a book of influence, I stop and I read that book of influence because it's telling me to stop, right? They're telling me about a book that's influenced him. So I need to learn to say, okay. So for you, I've already taken down like 3 books tonight, right? Right. So now eventually when I get done with these books, I have books of plan. And so it talked about persistence. And one of the key things that kept on rolling through all this is just we're persistent with this conversation. And at the end of this, it talks about, definitely this group. So I want to share that with us. It says how to develop persistence. There are 4 steps which lead to the habit of persistence. They call for no great amount of intelligence, no particular amount of education, and there's the but a little time or effort, right? The necessary steps are a definite purpose backed by a burning desire for its fulfillment. 2, a definite plan expressed in continuous action. 4, a mind closed tightly against all negative and discouraging influences, including negative suggestions of relatives, friends, and acquaintances. And then 4, here's our group, a friendly alliance with one or more persons who will encourage one to follow through with both plan and purpose. And then he goes on to say, these are 4 steps are essential for success in all walks of life. The entire purpose of the 13 principles of this philosophy is to enable one to take these 4 steps as a matter of habit. And I won't go on, but you kept on talking, and this thing kept coming back, this friendly alliance. Right here, we're in a friendly alliance, right? And we're putting a definite purpose backed by our burning desire to be healthy. We have a definite plan that everybody's free of this weight issue, and financially free on top of it, right? And this is the key, right? Our minds aren't always closed. And so it's open. My mind is open sometimes to this negative influence, actually quite a bit of time. So I'm learning to go back to plan, my definite purpose, right? And go back to my routine, So I'll get on tangents with work. I'll go down this rabbit hole, and then I got to come back, go, what was my plan? And it kind of makes me think I've lost plan inside of isogenics, And so that's how I drift. And so now I'm coming back to plan, and definite plan with an expression of continuous action. So when we get done, Kelly and I are going to go work out, right? That was the goal. That was the plan. Not going to allow anything to come in my way. I'm taking positive actions forward, even on a cleanse, right? Because I enjoy that. We're just going to go walk the dog, right? And that's going to be our workout. And it's just beautiful because we get back onto the freeway, right? We just get back on the on-ramp. I'm going. I'm here, taking action. So I wanted to share that with you. And then the other thing I wrote was to learn from the past, take away a lesson and create versus regret. So that's what I can learn from my past. I can take a lesson from it. Instead of regretting it, I can create something for myself to learn and to maybe pass on. So yes, I wanted to share that.
Thank you. Anybody else? Amy? Hi.
I joined late.
That's
Sorry.
Okay. That's all right. Any nuggets or anything you want to share, just kind of about the past and the future and being present and in the now? And
Yeah, that's perfect timing for me. I need to be in the now because I have been not. But I'm going to get that book. I have to get that book. And I jumped on at the right time. I'm glad I caught it.
yeah, it's mind-blowing. It definitely takes some time to get through, but we're so ingrained, you guys, with who we think we are, like our thoughts, who we think we are, that just, it's not us. It's so not. It's like the more I study and learn, and the more I realize that it's like, oh my God, no, like those were just like some things you went through, but like some of the traits and characteristics that I adopted as Chris are so false and so untrue, that if I stay in those, like that, you miss that creative potential to become new. And I mean, you hear all the time people say the one thing that, that always stays the same is change. Like the only thing that's constant is change. And we don't allow ourselves to do that when we stay stuck. That like, oh, like I would always feel like, I don't want to go. I don't feel like going walking. I don't feel like going walking. Well, lately, like I've been like, I think I'll go for a walk. Rather than stay in that, like, nah, I don't really like walking. It's too hot outside or whatever. It's like, no, I'm going to try that because like, that's like, this is a new now. And so I've been really, trying to keep that in mind as I coach people too. that are getting started, that are, you know, worried about, like, you don't know what you don't know. I didn't either when I started isogenics. You know, I didn't know if I was going to, what if I don't like the shakes? Or what if I get to the end of 30 days and I don't lose any weight? And what if this is the same as everything else? And yeah, but I've never been successful before. And yeah, I hear you, but I never liked the taste of anything. And it's like that, you know, past and future thing. Like, I've really been trying to help people, you know, do the same with regard to, like, how are you feeling right now? You know, are you ready? That 1 to 10, Jennifer Trinkner, like, where are you right now on a scale of 1 to 10 of being ready to make a change? And it's like, you know what? The what ifs, we're going to talk about that tomorrow if happens, right? We don't know if the if is even going to come. So let's not talk about it right now. Let's just talk about right now that you're ready to go, you're ready to do this. And then, you know, again, like, I'm trying to just apply it in so many different areas of my life. You know, when I don't feel like working or posting or doing my buffer, or, you know, it's just like I have this, because part of me has this, like, this, I don't even know what it is, you know, where I'm figuring it out, but it's like this resistance to, you know, like, being successful. What if they don't like my post? What if that, you know, that's all like worry and fear. And like, it's all of those things that it's like we're staying attached to, which takes away, I just love the way that he says that you know, the infinite creative potential that lies concealed in the now. It's like, you don't even know what could happen right now because you're so in the past, or you're so worried about what's going to happen in the future, that, like, you're not open for the magic. And so for, you know, myself, I just, this has really been hitting home for me. So I hope, yeah, if anyone has any final closing thoughts, feel free. We've got a few minutes left, but I really am enjoying both of these books. You know, the Mark Nepo, again, like, it's just kind of a one day at a time sort of a thing. But when I started to see, you know, that theme about the Nautilus and the past, but, you know, keeping yourself in the present. And then I just happened to be picking up The Power of Now that's been on my shelf for about a year. So for me, it's all about this psychological time. And you know what? I do not know what's going to happen in the future. I cannot. I mean, there is only so much that I can, you know, make happen. So worrying about the way things are going to turn out, worrying about whether that it's going to be 5 pounds or 10 pounds or 20 at the end of the month. Like, I don't know, but we can deal with today. You know, we can talk tomorrow morning when we get up, you know, when you get up, like, and we'll deal with that tomorrow. But that one day at a time, one moment at a time, is all we need to do to see the magic, you know? Anybody?
Hey, Chris, I wanted to say something too. So, Amy, you had said you were going to order up that book, but what I do is that, like, whenever I hear somebody talk about a book, I go onto YouTube and I put in YouTube, like I put in the Now and Neville Goddard, and a couple things came up, a couple videos. So I feel like when I do that, those are the videos I need to watch before I ever get the book, because then I get a little bit of what Chris is talking about. Yeah. Instead of waiting. And so hope that helps.
Thank you. That's a great idea.
You can't go wrong with Neville Goddard. That's for doggone sure. But this dude, oh, he is, I mean, there's some stuff in here. It's not, you know, it's not for, it's one of those books that we share because we're all enjoying personal development, right? And like learning this stuff, and we dig it. Somebody else might pick this up and literally look at it and be like, nothing, I got nothing. But like, it is like grabbing my core because of life, you know, like, what are we doing here? Like, it's, are we here to just dwell on things that have happened in the past? Are we here so we can sit here and like worry about something that we have no control over that's in the future? Or are we here to enjoy life to the fullest, to live fully? Like, it's just, life is just too precious. And so for me, you know, really catching my thoughts every chance I can to say, you know, if it's negative, if it's not lifting me up, if it's not making me feel lighter and brighter and, you know, more amazing in some kind of a way, then it's either from the past or I'm worried about the future, and neither one of them are doing me any good. So I hope this has been an interesting and helpful topic. And again, you know, feel free to, you know, as you coach, that you'll start to hear, the more you yourself practice, you know, like being in the present, being in the now, the more you'll hear it from other people too, of, you know, the yeah, but and what if. And I, you know, rather than go down those rabbit holes with them, it's like I just won't do it. I say, you know what, we're going to deal with right now. And that's it, because that's what we're here to do. You're ready to make this decision right now, or maybe not. You know, maybe a couple more waves have to come back through, and maybe 6 months from now is going to be there now, you know, to get started. And that's okay too. So anyway, I love you guys. Thank you for joining and participating. It's so good to see your faces, and we'll see you next Monday.
Thank you.
You.
Bye. Good night.
Good night.